adjust the seat properly. These seats are going to have little twist things back here. They're really tight, so you might have to actually get some help from someone. That when they're loosened, allow for this to move up and down. Okay? You don't want to be sitting real low on this. The goal is that you actually pull the wheel up or the seat up high enough that you'll be able to kind of rest your body so your elbows are on your legs here. So I'm going to pull mine up. It's kind of tricky though because you don't want to go so high that you're not going to be able to actually reach the wheel. So you got to be careful about that. Make sure once you have it to the height you need that you tighten it up. These do sometimes, if they don't get tightened real well, fall down during the period, and we will all be working to hear this really loud thud. It's very unpleasant if you're sitting on the wheel and it does that. So, you guys will notice I'm sitting up pretty high now. As I lean forward, I can easily brace my arms against my legs so I can work with that. Again, some of you that are really tall, that might mean adjusting the seat differently. Some of you that are really short, that might mean adjusting the seat differently. Okay? So, I'm going to go ahead and drape my towel here, and then I'm going to turn on the wheel. Some of these are electric, some of them are not. Okay? If I turn it on, I can hear it's running because you guys all have heard the motor kick on, right? Okay, so when I turn it on, you can hear the motor kind of start whirring. When the motor starts whirring, that means the electric wheel is on. At the end of the period, please shut them off. Okay, we don't need to be running electricity in here all day long, every day. So turn it on. If yours is motorized wheel, when you push that pedal, it's going to start speeding up, and of course now it's going slow. Okay, when it starts speeding up, depending on the pressure I'm putting on it, it's going to start going fairly fast. Okay. If it does not turn on when I'm working on it, I'm going to have to kick. And when you kick, what you're doing is you're going to have to do a full extension of your leg. You start by grabbing the wheel in the back and pushing forward with your toes or with your whole foot, whatever you got to do. This is a full extension kick. Do not do, you get a lot of students who do this. Okay, so you will spend the entire hour trying to get this thing to go fast. Kick it a couple times with a full extension, and it speeds up a lot faster. Okay? So, before I get the wheel going though, like I said, I have to attach my clay. Just double check and see if you have a kick wheel or if you're going to be working on a motorized wheel. Okay? Now, things that are on here, this is called a slop bat. Okay? What it's going to do is it's going to keep the clay from flying off the wheel and onto you. It doesn't stop all of it, but it stops most of it. If it's not attached right, it doesn't do anything. So, if you look underneath the wheel or if you're sitting at a wheel, you can actually feel there's these little hooks down here, okay? It has to go inside that hook. So if I set it on here and I slide it in, it fits those hooks and I can check and see if it's right because if I push on it, it doesn't wiggle, okay? If I've attached it wrong, if I push on it, it wiggles, okay? So make sure it's attached right every time that you're working on here. The other thing that you guys have is you're going to need to get a bat. I suggest keeping a couple of them by you during the period because you may make several things. And if you don't have several bats, it means you have to get up and get another one and get up and get another one. It's kind of annoying. So I'm going to go ahead and set my bat on here. I attach it so that these two little pegs come up and attach into those two little holes on the surface here. All right. Now, I'm going to kind of cheat today. It's probably not going to keep a lot of what I'm making. I'm just going to go ahead and start out cutting a chunk off my block here. And like you guys didn't get to see the video that showed this. Sorry about that, by the way. On Wednesday, we just ran out of time. What you want to do is, again, get 4 pieces of clay. Once you get the wheel actually kind of get used to working on it, make about 4 balls of clay to work with. And just set them aside. Don't try to work with all of them at once, obviously. But why do you think you want to have 4 balls of clay? In case you mess up? Yes, exactly. So in case you mess up, you have a backup. Or if you make something, so you don't have to start or get up and just try to start all over and wash your hands and all that kind of good stuff. So, since I'm going to make about 4 things, you definitely want to have about 4 balls of clay. Generally speaking, if you get really good at this, you can make about 3-4 things within a period, so it's a good idea to have it ready to go. And yes, you will get to that point where that will be easier. Okay. So, now, to get started with, when I'm working with this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my ball of clay, I'm going to set it in the middle of the wheel here. Okay? Before I go too far, take a tiny bit of water, put it on my fingertips and just rub it on the surface. Do not douse the wheel head, okay? Just a tiny little bit. You're gonna set it on there, give it 2 good pushes down. This helps to attach it. It doesn't make it a permanent stick, but at least it's gonna stick to the bat better, okay? Once I have it attached, I go ahead and I start the wheel up. Now, you want it to be going fast, yeah. Okay? You want it to be going fast. If the wheel is going slow at this point in time, you're going to actually damage it. You don't want to push a piece off center. You want to try to get it on center. If it's going slow, you're going to keep pushing it off center every time you touch it. Okay? So the wheel needs to be going as fast as you can get it. You're not using the motorized wheel. You're kicking it to get it to go as fast as you want. Never have your hands in the clay while you're kicking. Okay? So, this process uses a lot of water. I'm going to have my bucket of water here. I'm going to go ahead and start out just by doing my pre-centering quick. And I just kind of set my hands on the surface and push it down a little. Okay? It makes a little bit extra seal between the two. Again, I kick, and then I'm going to go ahead and release my hands while I kick, and then I can put them back on. Once I've gone ahead and done my pre-centering, I'm going to go ahead and start coning and doming it. Remember, coning and doming, you're using fatty tissue on your palms here. You're putting them together. You're locking your body in. You're pushing forward. Now, since I'm using this as a kick wheel, you notice it's slowed down. As you work, as it gets closer to being on center, if you're using a kick wheel, you'll actually know that it's on center because it doesn't slow down anymore. Okay? When it's off center, it's going to slow down a lot. Okay? So I've gone ahead and got my cone here. Shot up. Again, I'm pushing here, and I'm pushing inward. It's kind of a motion like this, okay? Once I've gone ahead and done my cone, I wrap my left hand around here. I brace it against my body. I'm going to take my right hand, and I'm going to push in with my left and down with my right, and kind of wrap it around until it comes to a dome-like object, okay? Now again, you have to push on the clay. This is not something where you just get to set your hands here and hope it goes towards the middle, okay? You actually have to push on the surface. Anytime I get buildup on the clay bat, I don't like that. Just set my thumb down and let it just scrape it off. Okay, so again, I'm gonna do another cone. Pushing in. You'll notice it's more on center and it doesn't slow down as quickly. Once it's coned up, wrap my left hand, grab my right hand, and I'm pushing down and wrapping it around, okay? Now, we're pretty close to being uncentered. Do you notice how it's not wobbling anymore? Okay, that means it's really close to being uncentered. I probably have about one more to do. I'm going to show you a couple variations on how you can cone and dome for those of you who might struggle with that one that I just showed you. Again, that's the easiest method for me. It does not mean it's going to be the easiest method for you, okay? Some of you are going to notice it's going to be easier to have your hands cupped around. It's very important you don't pull with your fingers though, okay? But you are going to have, some of you will find, you get over top and you push inward a bit more and it's going to come up to a cone. That's fine. If you're pushing in like this and using your whole palm, if that works, great. If you are working on the wheel and you're doing the doming part in another way, you still want to brace with your left hand. That never goes away. But you might find it's easier to use this part of your palm instead of this part of your palm. Some of you will push in and then straight down with your palm, and you notice instead of it coming to a dome, it's going to be more of like a flattened piece. Couple things you want to avoid. Okay? This one I got to have the wheel going. I don't need to keep picking it. Some of you are going to start coning. And you're going to cone and 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 try to get something like this. This is not coning, this is called making problems for yourself, okay? Don't try to push in and make it super tall. There's no point. You're working with a small amount of clay, okay? If you do this, you're going to notice it's going to be really hard for me to try to control it as I push it back down, okay? Now, again, my hands know what they're doing because I've been doing this a while. This is going to take you guys time. And please don't feel upset if I come over and start grabbing onto your hands and pushing them in weird ways. It's because I'm trying to help, okay? The other one that I see that I get problems with is students cup underneath. They try to push with like this part of their palm underneath it. And I always call it the mushroom cloud because it looks like a mushroom cloud. If you do this, your piece is probably going to break off and you're going to have to re-wedge it and start over. Try not to do that, okay? We want to avoid mushroom clouds. It also a lot of times can actually build air bubbles into your piece and cause you problems later. You don't want to have that. One I don't suggest doing, but there is a coning and doming method that some students prefer to work with. It's a lot more difficult to control, but basically you're coning it, taking two thumbs, pushing in and down with your hand, and you're just going back and forth like this. Again, it requires a lot more strength in your hands, which is why I don't necessarily suggest it, but it is an option if you're really struggling with the other two. And again, basically all of them are going to come down to push it forward, push it down. Okay, so we're on center. You'll notice that it's not wiggling. The first couple times you do it, just to check and see if it's on center, take one of your fingers, brace it on the side here, and just set it on the surface. If it goes around the entire way and it doesn't feel like the clay's pushing on you, or that you're having to move your hand to keep your hand touching it, it's on center. So mine again, if you guys notice, set my finger on here, and it's just rotating evenly. It's not giving me any problems. So at this point, I'm ready to, oh, I forgot to get my needle tool. Is someone want to grab my needle tool? You're ready to open the dome. To open the dome again, we make that W. We put our hands in the side. You put your thumbs in the middle, and you're going to start by just indenting in a tiny little bit, okay? It makes a tiny little notch. Just check and see if that's on center. I usually suggest this for you guys. If you pinch the top and just kind of press down a little bit, it's going to guarantee that it's on center still, okay? Some people are going to like, you guys saw, or if you guys watch videos online, some people like to brace their hand and use two fingers and open it up that way. I find that there's a lot less control with that. I encourage you guys to do the W. Now, once I've opened it up and made sure it's on center, put my thumbs back in here, bracing my arms against my body, and I'm pushing straight down until I'm about a ½ inch from the bottom. There is no way to know exactly how far you are when you're working, okay? You just kind of have to get used to feeling this. What you can do to make sure that you're right, though, before you go too far, is stop the wheel. Take a needle tool, stick it into the piece, and run your finger down the side of the needle tool. You pull it out and take a look at it. It should be about the thickness of a finger left, okay? So if I'm looking at it, it's about as thick as my pinky right now that I still have in the base. That's good. Okay? If it's really thin, if it's like this, stop, pull the piece off, and start over. If it's like this, push down further, okay? This is just to verify and check. I suggest doing it the first probably 10, 15 times you make something, just to make sure that you're not making it too thin. Once you've done it a couple times, you're going to start to realize that you know exactly what it feels like to push down until it's a ½ inch away from the base. Right now, you're probably not in that boat, okay? So, once you check it and it's okay, start the wheel up. You're going to go ahead and put your thumbs back inside, and you need to open this up a little bit more. All I'm doing to the opening is I'm putting my thumbs on the inside, and I'm going to just separate the tips of them about an inch away from each other. This is just going to open up the dome so that I'm not going to, or open it up a bit more so I'll be able to fit my hand inside. So, just taking my thumbs, and I'm pushing it open just a little bit, okay? Do not try to pull the sides using this method. I get a lot of students who are like, well, it's pulling it if I just go like this. Yeah, you make bowls and they're going to be really off center, they're going to be really uneven, and they're going to be very, very inconsistent. Sometimes they're going to flop, sometimes they'll look okay. It's not a pulling method, it's just to open up the base so I can fit my hand inside. Okay. I'm going to take my sponge then, Press down on the inside, just make sure that I have the base compressed so that it's actually not gonna have any air bubbles in it. And then I'm ready to start pulling, okay? I can check and see if the top is true. If I wanna pinch it and press down a little bit, it's gonna make sure that the top is on center. Now, again, when I do a pull, I need lots and lots and lots of water. If you try to work on the wheel and your hands are dry, or the clay is dry, guys that are walking around and not watching, you're gonna have to do this, okay? If your hands are dry, they're going to start sticking to clay. If they stick to the clay, they're going to actually rip the clay off the surface. If that happens, it's going to throw it off center. So, what I'm going to do for a pull is make sure there's lots and lots of water, and I'm going to keep adding water as I go. I'm going to go ahead and start by putting my left hand on the inside, my right hand on the outside. You have to do that. Put my right hand on here so it's all the way down in the bat. I'm going to put my left hand in here so that it's going to be at the bottom of where I was opening to. Now when you do a pull, it's really important that you push your hands towards each other. Don't try to push like this because you're going to push the piece off. Don't try to push like this because you're going to push the piece off. You got to raise your hands at the same rate. So usually when I do this, and you guys can practice it right now, is I lock my thumbs. Okay, I start at the bottom and I'm going to make sure that when I do my pull, I've got my hand here and my hand here, and they're lined up by the fact that my thumb is locked on top. So every time my right hand goes up, my left hand goes with it. So, starting at the bottom, I'm bracing my elbow on my leg here, I'm pushing in with my right hand, I'm pushing out with my left hand, and I start to slowly move my hand up the side of the pottery. As I get to the top, I'm releasing pressure and basically letting my hands just glide along the surface. Okay? So, that's a first pull. I'm going to add some more water, and I'm going to do probably about 2 more of these. Remember, in ceramics we have it's good enough clause. You have to get at least 1 pull, but after that first pull, if it looks good, stop working. Don't try to fix it. Don't try to do anything else. Okay? I'm going to go ahead and start again at the bottom on my pull. I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit more pressure. I'm going to go ahead. Just another nice, even pull the top. Okay, so I've got 2 in. You guys will notice, see how it's wobbling? It's a little bit off center. Who cares? I can't fix it right now. I just have to deal with it. Okay? If you notice that your piece has kind of gotten off center, don't worry about it. It happens. It's normal. Okay? So, got 1 more pull I'm going to go ahead and do here. Add a little bit more water. This one is going to be kind of my forming pull. I actually want to push on the clay to get it to look the way that I want it to. On this one, I'm putting a little bit extra pressure on that inside hand because I want this to open up a bit more. Okay, now, basically at this point, I'm done. I don't need to do anything else to help form this. What I do need to do is a lot of finishing pieces to make sure that this isn't going to be a bad piece when I'm done. One thing I need to do is I need to trim the lip. Like I said, you guys can see it's uneven, it's wobbling. That's okay. I'm just going to cut off the wobbly part now. To cut off the wobbly part, I'm going to take and pinch my fingers gently on the surface here, again making sure there's plenty of water. I'm going to brace my arm that has a needle tool in it against the side here. I'm going to slowly move my needle tool in until it just barely touches the surface, and then keep pressing until it cuts through. Once it cuts through, I just pull my hand up and take off the piece, and that's just set aside. Last other finishing touches, I need to get the water off the surface and clean it. So I take my sponge, I'm going to go ahead and put it on the inside to get all of the water out. You have to remove all the water off the inside, because if there's any water stuck at the base, as it starts to dry over the next couple days, it's going to crack. And if you get a crack in the bottom of a mug, well, it's not going to work very well as a mug anymore. Okay? So I go ahead and I clean up the outside. You can run a sponge along the outside here to clean up the outside. I can run the sponge along the inside to clean up the inside. I can also go ahead and clean up my lip, and there are 3 ways that you guys can clean a lip. 1, you can pinch the top and just let the sponge rest around the top edge there. It'll round it out a bit. 2, I can just let my hand, that natural webbing, rest on the top. Or 3, I can pinch the top and kind of rock my index finger back and forth until it rounds out. Whatever you guys want to do is totally fine, okay? Now, finishing touches, take my finger and I just run along the bottom here to cut off all of that extra clay. That's going to help us when we actually go to finish the piece and start trimming. Okay. And at this point then, I'm done. I can go ahead and I stop the wheel. I need to get a wire tool. I need to pull my wire tool, gentlemen. I'm really not kidding when I say this is your grade, and if you guys aren't watching, you're going to miss this, and it's going to be really hard. Okay?